So, hello, Polly Dutton. How are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you. Nice to
Good.
see you.
Nice to see you too. And first of all, before we start, I'm just going to show everyone your page in the magazine so they know how to contact you and all your contact details and your Instagram and everything. So I'm just going to do that first because everyone wants to know how to get in contact with all the artists and we don't want to forget about that part. So it's always better to do it at the beginning. Otherwise I get into the flow of asking all these amazing questions and then I forget at the end. I go, bye. I've forgotten to say how to get in contact with everyone. So do you know what page you're on in the magazine?
I'm so sorry, I don't.
So what is your inspiration?
I'm really lucky enough to be living in the South Downs in West Sussex and really near the coast. And I travel around a lot, I drive around a lot, I walk a lot, and nature, the changing seasons, the colour in the land and the landscape, the colour of the sea, the harbour in Chichester, my garden.
There we are. So you're in colour, you're in the colour section.
I am.
You're in the colour section.
I am. I wasn't sure whether to be in the nature or the colour section. So in the end, I decided to go for colour because I think generally I will spot a colour when I'm walking around or driving around or out in the landscape, and that's what draws me first of all. I will hone in on that colour. Colours, I was trained as a photographer, so colour has always been incredibly important to me.
Yes, you can see that in the work here and the diversity of the colour, but the intensity as well.
Yeah.
So when we're talking and you are really attracted to Polly's work and you want to see more, you can contact Polly by emailing her. There's her email address, or you can go to her website. You can follow her on Facebook, or you can follow her on Instagram and interact and get to know her a bit better. So that's how you'll get to know Polly. There's all her contact details in the magazine and it is on page 34. So you'll know that now next time someone asks you.
I will.
What page are you on?
Thank you.
You're on page 34 in the colour section. I love this image of you in the garden as well. I think it's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yes, that was taken when I was artist in residence at Parham House near Pulborough in West Sussex, and I was there was a beautiful evening. They had a jazz evening, and I was in the garden painting, and visitors were walking by, and there's this beautiful jazz music flowing around the gardens, and I was actually painting the blue border, and I'd spent quite a lot of time painting the blue border at Parham House.
So Parham House, talk to me about that. Talk to me about the whole concept of residencies. Is that something that you use as part of your inspiration?
Certainly, when I was asked to be, it was the first artist in residence at Parham House, and it was wonderful. Like Lady Emma said to me, would it be something I'd be interested in doing? And I thought, whoa, yes, this is amazing. And I said, well, what would you like me to do? And she said, I don't mind, you do whatever you like. So I went over to Parham a lot, and I had a year there, and at the end of the year I had an exhibition, a solo exhibition in a room that they created especially to have exhibitions. It was the first one. So I spent a lot of time walking around the garden. It was the garden, the wall garden and the lake and the greenhouses that really inspired me. The colours, I mean, the blue border is a blue border. It's all the most incredible blue flowers and white flowers and purple. And I just spent hours and hours and hours sketching and creating work from there.
So is that how you start? You're out in the landscape, you're attracted to the various colours and you start sketching to begin with?
I do. I go out into the landscape and I sit very quietly. I'm not a painter who can just arrive somewhere and produce a piece of work. I'm somebody who will sit and listen and look and really focus in on what it is that's inspiring me, what it is that's attracted me to that place. And I will make sketches. I will take charcoal or coloured pencils or pastels. I love soft pastels, and just hold in my hand and go around and make some sketches of the shapes and the colours and the tones. So first of all, sketches, and then I make little notes to myself, either writing them down or to myself on my phone.
And then do you bring those back to your studio?
I do. I bring them back to my studio, and certainly with Param, which was a whole year's body of work, I pinned everything up on my wall in my studio, and I had lots and lots of sketchbooks, and because it was such a huge place, and there's a lifetime's work in just one corner of that beautiful place, and I thought, no, I have to focus, really focus down. So I found my inspiration, and then I started my sketches all around the room. They were in my sketchbooks, and I just lived and breathed it, and that's what I do. I bring my sketches home, and I start to work from those.
So once you're back in your studio and you've got all your pictures pinned up around the room, what do you do next? What's the next part of the process?
I start to distill the sketches, and I might have big sketches, so I start to crop them down. I think, what is it about this particular sketch that I'm loving? Is it the composition? Is it the colour? Is it the tone? What is it that's really inspiring me here? And then I'll start to create bigger sketches on canvas or on paper, depending on what I'm working on. And then I'll build it up to a big painting, and I'll probably work on 4 or 5 paintings at a time. And I'll have all the
I was going to say, at the moment, are you in the process of doing something like that you could show us?
Yeah, I am. I've got some, I'm bringing in much more texture into my work. So I'm doing a lot of collage, and the collage I'm doing is taken from the place where I'm actually working. So I've been into the landscape, and I might take some tissue paper or something and do some rubbings, and then bring those back to my studio and use those within the work. Shall I show you a few little bits on the wall? Yeah,
show us what you're doing.
So if I just turn that right. So these little pieces here, wait a minute, where are we? These have all got collage in. And these are all bits of collage that I've taken, and I've used, I've done rubbings of stones, I've done rubbings of trees, I've done rubbings of leaves, and then create those into collage papers and use those within the work. So they are so much of the place.
So the place, what is the place that you're working on at the moment?
At the moment, I've been working at Burton Mill Pond, which is a very beautiful place near us. I've also been up onto the Downs, which is one of my favourite places, various places around, and to just a harbour. I absolutely love going onto the harbour, and I will use bits of seaweed and bits of stuff that's hanging around and make collage papers from those rubbings.
And then you come back into the studio and you start this process. How long does that take? What do you turn the paintings around quite quickly, or do they take weeks and months?
Depends. Some are like that, go, yay, I'm brilliant, and so I was like, no, I'm not actually, because this is taking months and months and months. But there are lots and lots of layers in the work, and sometimes I'll sand it back and then recreate the work again with just go over it with another collage, sand it back, think I love that bit, maybe put a glaze of paint over something, so you get this very deep layers. And that's what the landscape's like, isn't it? It's not just what you see, it's not just where you are, it has a history, and it has a depth, and it has something underneath the bit that you're seeing. It has all the geology behind it.
It has evolution, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And the work too. Yeah, the work too. And sometimes I go through the phase of thinking this piece of work is never ever going to resolve itself, and I hate it. And then suddenly something happens. I go, yeah, that's it. Stop.
Now move away.
Yeah, step away from that painting.
So how do you know? Do you kind of like you feel that they're kind of done? Do you just spend time just leaving them in the studio and just contemplating them for a while?
I do. I'm sitting on what I call my staring chair, and I have that. My work is on that wall there. My staring chair is over there, and I sit in this little chair and stare. I just stare, paint with my eyes, if you like. I stare at the work, and I photograph the work a lot as I'm working, and sometimes removing myself from the process and looking at the image on a camera, of my phone rather, removes me slightly, and I can see what needs to be done. I can see what's wrong. Whereas sometimes staring at it, I haven't got a clue. But I just sit and stare, and eventually I think, yeah, I know what you need.
The staring chair. That I've been through these interviews, I've been gathering a whole new dictionary of terms that I think I'm gonna have to create the artist dictionary, because I think the staring chair's definitely got to go in there.
I think everybody needs a staring chair, and it's one I bought from an auction for £5, and it's the best chair. It's covered in paint, but it's the best little chair ever.
It's the best staring chair.
Best staring chair ever. Of staring chairs, it's the best one.
Of all the staring chairs there are.
Possibly the best one in the world.
That's going to be worth a lot of money. It's going to be worth more than the £5.
Yeah, I know. All that paint on it.
All that paint. And you've got other things that we can see around you. So you've got like a trolley as well. Talk to us about the trolley.
My tea trolley, yes, that is an essential bit of kit for me. Again, well, I bought that from a charity shop very cheaply, and it's wonderful because it's on wheels. It's really old-fashioned 1950s tea trolley on wheels, and on the top you can see there I have my palette, and underneath I can have paints or bits of stuff. And because I work in a long line in my studio, I take my trolley with me, and I push my trolley around my studio, and it's all there to be had. A little snack probably there as well. But it's really, yeah, it's really, really. I mean, I have this table I have here. I mix paint on as well. But just having that trolley, it's portable. If I'm really on a mission, I'm working really, really quickly. It's great to be able to pull the trolley with me and just put the paint on that way. Yeah, it's great. I love it. My tea trolley.
There's another thing that's going in the artist dictionary, the essential tea trolley.
Yeah.
You were saying if you're working really quickly, is that your normal mode?
I start off really quickly. Yes, I do. I try not to think too much. I generally will decide on a palette beforehand, but that can go a bit wrong. I know what I'm feeling. If my sketches are well informed and I'm happy with them, I know the palette I'm working with, and I generally will mix up a lot of paint and then just work really, really, really quickly and then settle. If I start to contemplate it too much when I first start, it gets tight, and it becomes it's just not satisfactory at all. It loses the energy. And I'm trying to keep the energy going that I felt when I was out in the landscape. So I work really, really quickly and then stop and stare.
In the chair.
Take photographs, and because I'll have maybe 4 or 5, each one will have informed the other one. And I just take photographs, and I think, yeah, there's something about that one that I really love that I could transfer to that one, or that bit's working, that's not working. And so I work quickly, very intuitively, and then I stop and I stare, and then I reconsider what needs to be done to finish them. And that can take a day, or it can take a couple of weeks. Don't always get it done quickly.
Yeah, when you are, because you're saying you work in series, do you like to exhibit them in series?
I do. I think there's something wonderful about a series of paintings. They hold it, they're like a little family, and I think they can explore from one sitting out in the landscape. I can have 4 or 5 little stories going on, and I think a series of paintings really do work very beautifully together. So I do tend to work. They can look quite different, but then families do, don't they, sometimes? Yeah,
absolutely.
And they can be, but they sit together, so you would know that they are of the same place, of the same family. They have a harmony to them.
But they each have their own personality. They
do. They have their own personality, and they will. But there'll be something about them that you will instinctively know they belong together.
And some of your work is quite what we would describe as abstract landscape, but then other is very abstract, completely abstract, like really about shapes and forms.
Yeah.
Do you think about that before you start and think, oh, this time I'm going to make a body of work that's more abstract landscape, or is that all just very spontaneous as well?
The abstract ones the purely abstract ones are probably because they're not of anything in place. There's one that's in the magazine on page 34.
Page 34.
That is it's very pink and got lots of circles, and that's called Warm Face Kisses. And
I'm going to show it.
Oh,
It's
okay.
this one here, the one on the left.
Yeah, the one on the left, the pink one with the circles and the shapes in. Now that's called Warm Face Kisses, and that piece was inspired by some hugs with my grandchildren after we really got back together after COVID, and I'd missed their little kisses, and they came to the house, and I have 6 grandchildren, and
That's incredible.
yeah, 6 in this country and 1 in Australia, and some of the children, they came sort of falling out of the car, and they just hugged me, and they little warm face kisses, and it was just such a beautiful moment. And I just, one of them, I said, oh, I love your little warm face kisses, and I thought, oh, actually there's a painting. That is a painting, and I need to capture that moment. And so those circles that you can see there are all about the hugs and the feeling and the warmth and the generosity and the simple pleasure of hugging my grandchildren.
Yeah, and they're so uninhibited, aren't they, children?
Yes, yeah, they really are. And that's how it felt. It felt pink, and it felt warm and soft and glowing and lovely. So that's one on its own. There isn't another one.
No, because that's a moment, isn't it? That's just a moment, and it doesn't need anything else. It's an entire piece of work in its own right. So when you had that moment and you had that feeling and you were like, oh, this is a piece of work, what did you do next?
I sat with it for a while, and I wrote on a piece of paper. I wrote the title on my studio wall on a bit of paper, Warm Face Kisses, and then I went back into the studio a couple of days later, and I thought about it, and I knew it would happen. It wasn't something that I could force. I knew that there would be a moment when I was ready to create this painting. I couldn't force it. And then one day I was just mixing up some colours, and I just thought, this is very warm, I like this. And then I had a canvas on the wall, and I went in with some charcoal and just thought about that moment and made some marks, and they came out like hugs and circles and arms and embracing. And yeah, that painting happened, and that didn't take me very long to do. That painting probably took me about half an hour.
Well, it didn't. The actual physical painting.
Oh, the physical painting. The rest of it took a lifetime to get there. Yeah. No, the physical painting, getting the initial marks down, was probably about half an hour, and then I sat and stared and tweaked it a little in the staring chair and tweaked it over a couple of days. And it was in the house. I was walking past it, and I thought, yeah, that's it now. I don't want to do anymore. It doesn't need anything else. It says what it needs to do.
And how do you feel about it? Have you put that one up for sale? Is that available for people to buy?
Oh, yeah. I know. Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. I've got a few paintings that I wouldn't sell, and I think that probably is one of them.
Yeah, the way you're describing it, I was like, you're just so emotionally, because you're talking about how you disassociate yourself from the work by putting yourself behind the camera and taking the photographs to detach and disassociate yourself. But that one, you're completely associated. You're embedded into it, aren't you?
Completely. And I think even with some paintings, I might become very emotionally attached. But somehow when they're framed and they leave the studio to go to a gallery or an exhibition, they become something other. But I can't imagine that one ever going to a gallery. And I think I would, if I took it by mistake, I'd probably just end up pulling it off the wall and running off with it.
Have to have that back.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, it's that emotion. Have you found that with other pieces that you've done, that you've become emotionally attached to them? Yeah,
I have. There's one particular charcoal piece that I did years and years and years ago, and that was it must have been about September time. It was probably 10, maybe 12 years ago, and it was a time of transition. My youngest boy had was leaving one school, going to another. There were quite a lot of transitions in the family, and I was out walking on the downs, and I was just really emotional, aware of all this sort of change and transition. And I came back and very quickly just did this sort of charcoal sketch. It was trees moving and things shifting, and suddenly everything I wanted to say about that moment was on paper, and it was out, and I would never ever sell that piece. Far too precious.
there's no need for us to commoditize, to commercialize
No.
everything that we do, is there?
No. And I've got a triptych. I have three boys of my own, and there's a particular triptych that I would never sell. So they get one each when I'm pushing up daisies. Not that they haven't got many of my paintings, because of course they have.
Yeah.
They foster them.
Christmas is coming.
Yeah, no, they're not having them yet.
And that's such an interesting discussion about the parting of your, you know, how you price your work, how you part with your work. Yeah. Because it's so, you are so associated with it and you are so emotionally attached with it. And I think that's why artists sometimes struggle to price their work.
Yeah. Because
to them it's so part of them that they can't detach sufficiently to see the bigger picture.
No, and I think that's where a good curator, a good gallerist, a good group of arty friends, a good community of artists that's where that's really important, because people can look at that objectively, a piece of work, and say, actually, that's far too cheap, or think you're pushing the price a bit there compared to other work or compared to other things. And I think on the whole, artists undersell themselves. And I think that's where the support, it says, a gallerist or curator really comes into their own to help.
I think you're absolutely right. I think the tendency for artists to underprice is the danger, not overpricing.
I agree.
And I see it every single day. And I'm always saying, you know, think about the collector, think about what you know, how you're valuing yourself in the eyes of your collector. They want to feel value. But it is so difficult because you are so emotionally attached.
Yes.
I completely get it.
Yeah, it is. But I think for me, when I first started painting, I just could, you know, think, what, I can't charge for my work. But now I'm much more comfortable, and I know my price structure, I know my pricing level, and I actually feel completely fine with how much my work's priced. Yeah.
So that's the key, isn't it? It's having a pricing structure that you become comfortable with.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I think so. And that just takes time, I think, and confidence. Definitely.
And as you say, asking your friends and asking your artist friends and asking your gallerist and your curators to give you their honest opinion on what your prices are. And then you get a benchmark. And from there, it's easy then, isn't it? Because you've got your benchmark.
Yeah, it is easy. And I think for collectors, they want to see a standard of work. They like bodies of work, a standard of work, a pricing structure that they understand. It's not something that's really highly priced and something's low price. You know, what's going on here? So, and I think it's comfortable for people who are collecting. They know that they can afford that person's work, or they would like to pay a bit more, and there's this person's work. I think people feel comfortable knowing where they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Honesty and integrity within the pricing is really important.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so going back to the inspiration behind your work, what are you working on at the moment, apart from the ones we just saw on the wall? You've got the ones that you're doing the collage. Have you got any more of these like deeply emotional ones that you're like staring at from the staring chair?
I have. I'm starting to work with much more texture, and I've done some paintings, some work using fabric, cotton, repurposed fabric, and that's something that I'm really beginning to explore. It's fairly early stages. I've got one piece in the gallery at the moment that's with Keevy's House Gallery. Lucy, who works there, is incredibly supportive and has said, let's try this piece, because it is a bit different. It's not, you know, it's not sort of usual thing I do, but it's really lovely to be able to explore that. And so I'm working with fabric in folds, in the shape of the landscape, the shape of the downs. It's reminiscent of something, but it has an really abstract quality to it. And I'm really trying to play with that idea. So it's a whole new way of working, and I'm absolutely loving it.
And with that is sustainability, because you said it's like repurposing fabric. It's like the conversation around ecology and sustainability. Is that what's one of the motivations in there?
It is, and I'm hugely aware that, you know, I use acrylic paint. It's a plastic, you know, and it is a plastic, and I'm trying really hard to be very mindful of what I'm using, how I'm using it, how I'm disposing of it, what I'm using. A lot of my palettes that I use, I'm using those to make collage, so they don't get thrown away. I'm trying to be incredibly mindful of my impact on the world and on the environment, and just being really careful about what I do.
I think that's the best that any of us can do, is be thoughtful. Using acrylic paint in itself is not a problem, because it's there and it's going to have longevity. It's not a single-use plastic, but it is, as you say, the disposal of the remnants and the washing away down the sink of you know, the paints you don't use. It's all of that conversation, isn't it? So
it is, and I try to, you know, if I've got a pot of acrylic paint, I will try and use as much as I can. And weirdly, I've actually created some really great paintings from stuff that's been on my palette. Oh, get rid of that. Oh, that's good. Think, how did that happen? At the end of the day, but actually clearing out the palette. Maybe the paper palette I'm using, dry that, I can reuse that for collage. Washing my brushes in a bowl and then filtering the water as much as I possibly can through chopped out kitchen roll, and then disposing of that. Just being really aware that I'm not chucking all this stuff down my sink.
And not putting it into our water system.
Not putting, no.
Yeah, I know. It is just, that's all we can do, any of us, is just be mindful. And no single-use plastics, but you know, as artists, we want things to have legacy. So you know, it's not like you're making something that is disposable that people are going to throw away.
No,
you want it to last. So there is going to be some usage of things that are meant to last. Yeah,
and I have a big box of any plastic pots that come into the house. They get used for mixing ice cream tubs, and the best bit about a Chinese takeaway for me is the plastic containers. I get all excited. Oh, more plastic containers, but they're great for mixing paint. They're wonderful, and then I will use them and use them and use them, and eventually they fall apart. And then I will put them in the recycling. But they've probably had another year's life in there. Yeah. So everything can be recycled in this studio.
Yeah, even tea trolleys and staring chairs. Thank you so much, Polly. That's, I mean, just fascinating about how you approach your work and how you think about it. There's a lot of deep thought goes into your work, clearly.
There is, and I think it's not just in that moment when I'm out there. I tend to say art's what I am. And I'm processing all the time, even when I'm not actually physically in the studio or sketching. I'm constantly processing, seeing. I dream about art. I wake up thinking about it. I think about palettes. I'm just constantly. It's what I do.
You are immersed.
I am totally immersed.
You are totally immersed. Yeah. Are any of your children into art in the same way?
No, not really. They're not particularly. One of my boys is very good. He does metalwork. He's very good at metalwork. Another one of my boys collects art. He buys art. He's very keen. They're all quite keen on photography, which is great. But they're not. You know, they've got other careers. They do other things, and maybe there'll be a point when they have time to do that. But right now they're just working hard to feed their families. Yeah, it's a familiar tale, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Of course it is. Yeah, absolutely.
But it's nice that they are. They've picked up some of your artistic interests, and they're part of their lifestyle.
Yeah, and they're creative musically as well. I sort of have a tiny little bit of that, but not a lot. But they do. They're very musical, so they have that creativity in them as well, which is great.
Yeah, and watch out for the grandchildren.
Yeah, now that's such a joy. They make such a mess. It's wonderful.
Do you let them in the studio?
Yeah, sometimes, but it's sometimes they'll ask me, Nana, can we come into your studio? And I just say, I'm sorry, sweetheart, I've got a whole body of painting at the moment, because I know it's not going to be a tidy affair. But yeah, they have been in here, and I do like to buy them art materials. When I go off to the art shop, I'll generally buy them something.
I love art shops. I know, I love art shops.
Sweet shops, yeah, absolutely love them. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? Ridiculous.
I like you, I'm a photographer, so I don't actually need to go in an art shop.
No one needs to, we just have to.
Yeah, I cleared out my children's art cupboard just a couple of weeks ago, and I was bereft, because I was like, oh, and I was like, no, oil pastels, nope, gonna have to keep those.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Watercolor palettes, nope, gonna have to keep those as well.
Yeah, yeah. And so, it's just in all my my cupboards here, and I've got cupboards there, and it's just stuff everywhere. But you know what? That's what's so lovely about buying a new material or buying a new medium. We all use everything differently, and sometimes people say to me, how do you use oil pastel, or how do you use soft pastel? And I just say, you use it, just use it and see what it will do for you. Get to know your material, get to understand what it is you want from it. You just play with it and work it and use it, because we'll all use them differently. And it's the same with any art material. Just have a go and see what happens. Don't have any expectation, just plow in.
Are you a brush user or a palette user, or?
I'm an anything user. Yeah, I've got some huge brushes, big, like decorating brushes. I've got tiny brushes, I've got palette knives, I've got scrapers, I've got credit cards, I've got hands. Yeah, fingers, anything that can apply some paint to get the effect I want. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, all in.
I love them all.
All in on all of that.
Yeah, it's great. I've even got my in the 70s I had a curly perm. I wanted to be Barbara Streisand, and I bought one of the I bought one of those combs, the Afro combs.
Yeah, the Afro combs.
I've still got that one, and I use that for making marks in my paintings.
They're great, aren't they? They've kind of got a long handle.
Yeah, and they've got they've got like the forks. And they can make lovely marks or dots or scratches, scrapes, and I use that a lot.
Yeah,
it's very old,
but it's featured in many paintings.
It is featured in many paintings. Yes, it's still there. The legacy lives on. See, it's something else I'm reusing.
Yeah. So sometimes do the tools inspire you as well?
They do. I've got a real collection of bits and pieces in my studio, and I was up in London the other day and bought some food, and they gave us wooden forks and spoons. So those into the handbag, because those are really those are really good for mark making.
Yeah.
And anything, the back of something, or I'll spot something. I think that would make a great mark. It can be anything, really. It doesn't matter what it is. But certainly things, and I hate throwing away those little wooden forks and spoons and things. It just grates on me. I can't bear it. So my handbag, there's a collection of wooden forks and spoons and plastic forks and spoons that I think, I can use that. I can make a mark with that.
Do you ever feel stuck? Where you haven't got any inspiration? I don't know what to do.
Do I ever get stuck? I don't get stuck. I think sometimes I think that I might be stuck, and I think will I ever paint again? But I know deep down this is just a phase and it's okay, and I'm not stuck. I'm just resting, and that actually I'm not running out of creativity, because my brain is still going on. I'm still thinking, I'm still looking, I'm still seeing. And I trust my process. I know that even if I think I will never paint again and that my entire art career and inspiration is gone, I know that it hasn't, and it's all right. Trust that process. It will be all right.
Yeah, trust the process.
Absolutely trust the process, because I'm just such a believer in that. And sometimes I don't understand my process, but I know that I just have to sit and trust it, and all will be well. And
rest.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Really important to rest sometimes. You don't have to be manically doing arting all the time.
No, not arting all the time, but not actually physically, practically doing it, but certainly I'm probably thinking about it or reading about it or get on YouTube watching people paint and watching BBC 4 and all these amazing artists. So even if I'm not actually working, I'm in there, deeply involved in it.
Yeah, just absorbing.
Yeah, and I sing in a choir on a Monday evening, and we've just been singing a really beautiful song called Follow the Heron. And every line in that song is a title for a painting. And I was singing, I'm thinking, Follow the Heron Home. What a great title for a painting.
Amazing.
So that's in, you know, that's on the back burner, knowing that one day I will create a painting called Follow the Heron Home.
Yeah, that's the inspiration, isn't it?
Yeah.
Every minute of the day, it's okay to rest because you're still absorbing all the inspiration that you were meant to absorb.
Yes, it's out there waiting to be had. It's just a matter of plucking it out, spotting it, and kind of plucking it out of the ether and thinking, yep. And I sometimes will write that on my wall. I haven't written Follow the Heron Home on my wall. I will.
Need to go and write that on the wall now. Quick.
Yeah.
Quickly, and put it on the trolley.
Trolley.
And stare at it from the steering chair.
Yeah, my little comfort zone. And sometimes when I have a little dog, a little working Cocker Spaniel, and she often sits, that's my sofa there facing the fireplace, and she will come into the studio and she peers over, but sometimes she sits on my chair and I'm working away and I back up and I go and sit on my chair and there's a dog lets out a little yelp, and yeah, so she sits on my chair.
She does the staring when you're not.
Yeah, she does. Then I sit on her.
Oh, thank you so much. That's really fascinating. I am so intrigued by how each of you are so similar but so different.
Yeah,
I think it'll be really interesting to listen to all of these talks at the end and just do that kind of comparison. There's so many similarities in the way artists' methodology about how they get into their work, but then there's these unique little things like your staring chair. You are the only person I've spoken to so far who has a staring chair.
Really?
They have to watch out for that now.
They are missing out.
They're missing out. They might steal it now. They might steal your idea. But thank you so much, Polly. It's been absolutely brilliant.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Thank you very much.
And anyone who has been intrigued by this and interested by this talk with Polly today, don't forget in the magazine on page 34 in the Pure magazine, and that you can find under ART360 magazine. You'll find it, or you can find a real copy or order a real copy and have one sent to you. Then you'll find Polly there and all her contact details are there. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Nice to see you.